Hey y'all, how are you? It's so good to see you here today. My name is Ed. If I haven't met you yet, we're really honored that you came to be here today. I don't know if you had the experience. My wife and I are now empty nesters for a while now, and often at night, neither of us wants to really cook anything. And you have those times where you don't want to cook, but you don't know what you want to eat. But you have this go-to thing you'll just eat because you need to eat. You know what I'm talking about? You have a go-to food that you just like. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. My go-to food is whatever was in the fridge. That's what my go-to food is. I will eat any leftover. I am not the picky guy in our family. But my wife does have a go-to food. In fact, every time I know when she says, "Hey, I'm not cooking tonight," I say, "I'm not going to cook tonight. I'm just going to go find something." She's going to have, do you know what her answer is? Cereal. She's going to have cereal. She loves cereal. Now, I'm not going to tell you about the cereal or her eating cereal because I'm going home later, and I don't have to talk about that. So what that came to me about is a few weeks ago when I'm preparing for this message and writing it out and thinking about it in my head, I have to go to the grocery store, which I just don't do very much. And I'm at the grocery store picking up some stuff to bring back here to the church. And on the way to the cash register from where I was, I wound up cutting through the cereal aisle. I did not know they had a whole aisle of cereal. Did y'all know that? I mean, there's like a whole aisle of cereal. So we're going to play a little audience participation here. Okay, y'all ready? I want you to think about Cheerios, just Cheerios. You know, the stuff that nobody but babies eats? You know, Cheerios, that little food, the round hole in the middle, and we stuff it in their mouth so the kids will be quiet. Think about that. I want you to think about how many different varieties of Cheerios do you think General Mills produces? Now, I'm not talking about those of you who are cheap and buy the big bag of O's. I'm not talking about a bag of O's. I'm not talking about crispy oats. I'm talking about real General Mills Cheerios. Get a number in your head, turn to somebody and tell them what it is so they can guarantee you don't cheat. Okay? Got a number? How many varieties do they make? All right, now here's the way we're going to play this today. I want everybody, when I say the number, that you are at least that number or higher. I want your hand in the air, and then you just keep your hand in the air until I get too high for you. You know what I'm saying? Everybody go? How many of you think it's just one? Everybody got at least one? Put your hand up. Hold your hand up if you got at least one. Everybody's got at least one. All right, how many think at least five? All right, how many of you think at least seven? All right, how many of you think at least 10? How many of you think at least 13? How many of you think at least 15? How many of you think at least 17? How many of you think at least 20? How many of you think at least 25? Okay, if you have 25, you're way overshot. But I just had to go there this time because there are people just going to keep their hand up till I stop. But it's 20. 20 different kinds of Cheerios. Now, the interesting thing is that's not all the number they have ever made. That's just the ones they have not discontinued. In fact, when I came back and, because it's me, I came back and did a little research on this thing. They have had vast amounts of them they no longer produce, which I found the one that I immediately wanted, which they, probably because they don't make it, it made me want it. But it's chocolate peanut butter Cheerios. Doesn't that sound awesome? Why didn't y'all buy that? I don't eat cereal, but that sounds delicious, but they don't make it anymore. But they have 20 different varieties. Some are seasonal, some which are just about to come out. Pumpkin spice will be out soon. That's a terrible thought. You should not eat that. First Service booed pumpkin spice, by the way, which is the proper response to pumpkin spice. Okay? Anyway, I bring that up because here's the thought that hit me along with what I'm going to talk to you about in a minute is I'm walking through this long aisle. Do you know how many overall choices of cereal Americans have? Overall, all brands. You know how many we got? 1,000. We have 1,000 different choices. Only in the U.S., they don't make as many in other countries. 1,000 different choices of corn, oat, and wheat. That's all it is. It's corn, oat, and wheat. Only the good ones, only the good ones. Let's be clear, they got a bunch of bad ones that don't have none of that. All right, so sugar is included, all right? So I'm thinking about this. Here's the thought I had, though, that she would never do this. Let's imagine Becky sent me to the store, and I don't go to the store often, and she says, I want you to pick up some Cheerios. And I walk down that aisle, and I'm like, now imagine it's a time when I don't have a cell phone. I'd been like, oh my God, how am I going to get this right? And I would buy Sugar Pops because that's what I like. And just knowing, I mean, I ain't going to get it right anyway. She's going to complain anyway. I might as well get something I want to eat. So here's the thought I had. It would overwhelm me. It would just overwhelm me. 1,000 cereals on an aisle in Noonan. Why? Why do we have that? It's just too much. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hold on that feeling of just being overwhelmed by choice. And I want you to think about something else I bet happens to you at times in a different kind of way of overwhelmed. You know, when you're with people or you're listening to the news or you're scrolling somewhere or you're hearing things and you have that one friend that's really up on this one particular problem. They start talking to you about this condition in the world that's just the worst thing ever. And they got all the stats and why it's wrong and who ought to do something about it and the number of people are going to die from it and all of that kind of stuff. Don't you just occasionally have the feeling, there ain't nothing I can do about that but stand here and listen to you and be glad when you stop? Because there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything about that. I can't make a difference in that. I can't change that. And that's not like one problem. There are like hundreds of those problems, right? And you just have that feeling of, if I were to really think about this, it's a little overwhelming. It's a little too much for me. It happens to me these days, and this is in our county. Everything I'll say is a real situation and not just one. When I hear about a lady who works a full-time job at the hospital, and she has 2 kids, and she gets off her shift, and she goes, picks up the kids, and then they drive back to the parking lot at the hospital because they live in the parking lot at the hospital in their car. And she does homework with the kids, and then they sleep in their car. And I know of more than one of those. Or the lady that I know, and she represents hundreds of seniors in our community who they don't have anybody have a face-to-face, voice-to-voice conversation with them not once in a whole month, not one time. Nobody speaks to them. I think about the addiction that I'm on the board of a thing that deals with addiction, and I hear about addiction of all various kinds and the broken families and the homelessness and the way it hurts children. And the more it gets to me, the bigger the problem gets. It doesn't inspire me. It gets on top of me. And it feels like what it would feel like if I said to you, hey, what I want you to do today is, and I'm in charge of you, I want you to take this teaspoon, go to the Atlantic Ocean, and empty it. And you can't leave until it's done. Well, I want you to think about that feeling, because most of us, what happens to us when we get that feeling is we just look away. We just don't think about it. Nothing I can do about that. I'm going to think about something else. I can't help in that. Somebody ought to do something. Government probably. Somebody. There ought to be somebody that does something about that. But I just can't do anything at it, because looking at it honestly, it overwhelms you. And I can't fix all those problems. And so I won't do anything. But that idea you have of, I ought to be able to fix those problems, God never intended you to fix all those problems. I want you to get that clear. God did not intend you on your own to fix all of that. God's never called us to fix everything. What he has called us to do, and we talk about this around here all the time, is he has called you to love the person that is right in front of you. Now, you love the person that's around you, your neighbor. And I'm convinced that that plan of God's, which is you don't have to fix everything, and that thing that people put on top of you to fix everything, you can't do that. You're too little to do that. Your plan is to love somebody, not fix everything. So a number of years ago, and those of you who've been around here for a while know, about 15 years ago, almost now, 16 years ago, we started this thing in the fall. I stood up one Sunday and I said, hey, there are a lot of problems in our world, particularly poverty in Coweta County, and we can't do everything about that, but just because we can't do everything does not mean we shouldn't do something. We should do something. Just because I can't do everything doesn't mean I shouldn't do something, and if I can do something, I must do something. And that's been a really good thing for our church. So every year at the end of the year, and those of you who are new around here, you'll experience this. If you hang out with us for that long, we have this big thing, and we take a whole month of offerings, and we give it away to people outside that. We don't take any overhead, any of that kind of stuff. We try to give it to causes that'll make a difference in our county, and we buy gifts for kids that aren't going to have any gifts for all kinds of reasons. And we just try to bless our community at the time of the year. We can't do everything, but at that time of the year, we do something. And it's a really good idea, but what has happened, I feel, is, and I can feel it and hear it from people, is when we get done at the end of it, we go, that was awesome, I can't wait till next year. But what I want to say to you is we need to refocus and get on the idea that idea of doing something is the way we live interactive life with God. Every moment, every day. That idea of Lord is with me and in me, the Spirit is in me, that He's calling me to love the person in front of me every single day. And the idea that we had 16 years ago was not, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do away with poverty in Coweta County. If that was the idea, we are not good at it. Because it's gotten bigger. But we have loved some people, right? We have made a difference in some people. And so we have to keep focused on this idea that my idea is not, what can I do to solve the problems in the world? That'll get on top of you. It starts with, who is in my world? In my world. Who's near me and next to me? What people, what problems, what place could I make a difference? Because here's what I've come to believe. The world doesn't change by the few who do the great big things and have the great big plans, and we all hear about them. They matter. I'm not saying those big plans don't matter and that what happens in those big events and organizations doesn't matter. They really do matter, and they've changed many, many people's lives. But what I've seen is somewhere along the road over the last decade and a half or maybe more, we've been convinced by social media and the media that if it doesn't show up in scale, it don't matter. If you can't do it big, if you're not an influencer that goes out and you start wells in Africa, and again, the billionaires are doing awesome things, they are, but they're not going to fix everything. But we've been convinced if I can't do that, well, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And the side effect of that is that you've come to believe, and I've come to believe, that impact is measured by scale. And that small things I do, they don't really matter. Regularly showing up to take meals to 7 houses in a community to some seniors who wouldn't have food without somebody bringing them to them, that doesn't really matter. It's the big things. It's the billions of dollars. It's the causes. It's the clicks. It's the how many people like it. And compassion's gotten turned into a TikTok highlight reel, and when you do something that doesn't make the reel, you feel like I don't count. And what I did didn't count. But for most of 2,000 years for followers of Christ, the word charity, and I mean the real word charity, not the one that somebody politicized on both sides and made you hate or love and think somebody else ought to do it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the real meaning of charity. It didn't have a web page, and it didn't have an Instagram page, and you couldn't take a photo of it. It was the lady down the street who lost her husband, and people knew, and they went to her. And they took her a meal. And her neighbors loved her. It was the kid who everybody in the neighborhood could see was struggling in a little bit. Instead of posting on Facebook, whose kid is this? The neighborhood surrounded them and helped the kid because they all were at the same store and they all drank from the same well, and they realized we are for this community. It wasn't a movement. It was relationships between people who lived in the same place and loved each other. And somewhere between the family down the road and the GoFundMe page that has the really well-edited video that breaks your heart and then you click and give money, we thought that me participating by giving money was the same thing as me doing something. And me clicking that I like it and me sharing it, it was having the same impact. And the love I share, what happened is we forgot how to love the people around us. We can't love the people right in front of us that I can see. So what I'm going to ask you to do in the next few minutes, and Donnie's going to teach us a little bit from Scripture in a minute, but before, what I want to ask you to hang on to is I want you to hang on to that teaspoon feeling. I want you to hang on to that thing of feeling too small to do anything, because that feeling of you being small and doing small, I'm convinced that's what God has his plan all the way along. I think he wants us to realize that each one of us doing what we can do, that was his plan all along.
As Jesus people, we begin by looking at his life. When Jesus was on earth, he did not heal every sick person in Israel. There were sick people he walked past. There were towns he never visited. He did not personally end Roman oppression. Rome was still very much Rome when he rose from the dead. He did not eliminate poverty. In fact, he told his followers they'd still have the poor once he returned to heaven. But all of that doesn't mean he didn't do anything about those issues. A blind man sitting by the road who everyone else ignores, Jesus stops and restores his sight. A leper whom nobody would touch is touched by Jesus. A widow burying her only son has the funeral procession halted because Jesus sees her and acts. A tax collector up in a tree, written off by his town, is invited down and welcomed. It's not like Jesus lacked the power to do the big thing. He could have stood on a hillside and healed everyone in Israel at once. He could have ended hunger with a word. He could have dissolved the structures of oppression with a command. He didn't lack the ability. He seemed to measure success differently. Once when Jesus was teaching, a religious leader asked him what it took to inherit eternal life. And Jesus turned the question back on the guy asking, "What do you understand the scriptures say about this?" And the guy answered in the way Jesus had answered this question before. He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus tells the religious leader, "Bingo, you got it, exactly right." But the religious leader wasn't done asking questions. He then asked the key question, "And who is my neighbor?" Notice, he's not asking about how to best do these commands. He's asking what counts. If love for a neighbor is the deal, then who counts in the neighbor category? We ask that question too, using different words like, "Is it really my responsibility?" Don't I have to take care of myself and my family first? Isn't this what taxes are for? Shouldn't somebody else, somebody more qualified handle this? Those questions aren't focused on how to best love your neighbor. They are this lawyer's question wearing a different shirt. And Jesus answers with a story. A man goes down from Jerusalem to Jericho and is set upon by robbers, beaten, left half dead. A priest walks by and crosses to the other side, avoiding him. A Levite does the same. Then a Samaritan, a man who this lawyer would have seen as the wrong religion, the wrong ethnicity, the wrong kind of person, sees the wounded man and stops. He bandages his wounds, puts him on his own donkey, takes him to an inn, and pays for his recovery. He doesn't form a task force, he doesn't start a nonprofit or ask everyone else to contribute. He loves the person in need. And then Jesus does that thing he does. He answers a question with a better question. The lawyer asks, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus flips him. Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man? The point is not to define who qualifies for compassion. It's to ask whether you will be a neighbor to the person in need in front of you. Paul picks up the same thread in Galatians 6:2. He writes, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." Notice what Paul does not say. He does not say, take care of all burdens. He doesn't say, in the existence of burdens. Paul is not asking you to feel bad about all the suffering in the world. He's asking you to pick up the corner of one box, one burden, one person, one relationship, one act of compassion. That's the way of Jesus. James, the brother of Jesus, is even more blunt. He asks, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? James is not looking for a movement to get started. He's calling for a neighbor to show up with tangible help. Faith that never shows up for somebody is not really faith. You see the pattern? The kingdom advances through ordinary people loving other ordinary people, one life at a time. That's how communities are healed and problems are solved. It's slow, it's relational, it's often invisible, but it's how God chooses to work. This is not to dismiss institutions or organized efforts. There is a place for systemic change, for policy, for large-scale relief, but the engine of transformation is often the small, faithful presence of one person in another person's life. The two are not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. So when you have that feeling of standing at an ocean of need, holding a teaspoon, don't see that as a reason to do nothing. See it as the place where God is calling you to act. The question is not, can I change the whole world? The question is, whose need can I meet? What's one step I could take? The question is, who is my neighbor?
That's a question. Who is my neighbor? Who's the person in front of me? And what does that look like for us? I mean, not in theory, but in the messy, everyday, I have a busy schedule kind of way of your life. And how do we move this thing from the Bible and the theology that we talk about and to the love somebody kind of world, concrete act where you can start to do them in your real life? And how are we as a church going to sort of help you in that if we can? Some of you have been around here a long time know that over the last several years, my role at Community Christian has changed. I was lead pastor here for about 30 years, and now Nathan's the lead pastor here, and they're nice enough to still let me hang out. And my role now these days is I lead in these kind of efforts. It's the thing I've always loved to do, and now I get to do that, to lead our congregation in doing these kind of things. One of the things you may not know is the primary task of the staff and the elders of our church is a command that comes right out of the New Testament of the Bible, and we take it pretty seriously. The way Paul says it is that it's the job of the elders, the staff, those kind of people, to equip the saints, which, by the way, whether you knew it or not, if you follow Jesus, that'd be you. We're to equip the saints so you can do the work of ministry. It's not our job to do all the ministry. It's our job to help you get in a position so you could have the joy of doing the ministry that God has given people to do. And in my current role, in these kind of ways of making a difference in our community outside the walls of this church and partnering with people and places and those kind of things, that's what I try to do in our community and put you in the position. Because I know what it's like to come into this kind of place and hear me make the kind of stuff that I just did in the first part of this, and then to give you the whole story of Jesus there, and then you try to figure out who is it for me? Now, some of you may have immediately go, I know who God's calling me to. Awesome for you. But if you don't, what we want to try to do is I want to give you some places you can begin to start, and then you can begin to sense that God can use you, and then maybe you can move to other things. So I'm going to give you 3 things today for you to think about, and they're all on your next step cards that you let me know about. You want to be involved in that, and I'll help you in that in any kind of way. One is a partnership that we formed with Welch Elementary School just a few years ago. Welch Elementary School, if you don't know it, if your kid doesn't go there, Welch is the school. It's only 4.5 miles from here. It's the largest elementary school in this county. They have over 1,000 students, which the way I think about that is my hometown only had 2,000 all people in it, from old people to young people. We had 2,000. That school, from preschool, them little 4-year-olds, all the way up to 5th grade, there's 1,000 of those little suckers running around at that school. Half of my hometown. And it's overwhelming when you begin to think about all of that. Their staff is amazing. They do a great job. But one of the biggest needs, often because of the nature of our broken world and families, that we all know what the state of some places are, where it's just, there's instability for kids all over the place, that they often need mentors. So we began to work with an organization called Elevate Coweta that we were going to partner with Welch Elementary. Alongside of us came another church that's just down the road called Southcrest Church. We partner together, and our partnership has been, and we together provide the salary for an Elevate Coweta person named Linda Bennett, who does an incredible job for our mentors. She's there every day to serve our mentors and help us do the best job we can. And as I began to look at this a few years ago and begin to think about what we could do and what to say to you, one of the things that I found out in studying about what do you do to help kids in need is one statement that stood out to me that I have written down on a piece of paper is here it is, I'll read it to you. Is one stable, caring adult in a child's life, and they're talking about children who have instability for all kinds of reasons. It's not a blame on parents. I'm not trying to say that. One stable, caring adult in a child's life who's in that condition is one of the strongest predictors of resilience for a kid who's in an unstable environment. One adult who will be consistent and caring is the key ingredient of whether that kid will be resilient in their life. So let me tell you a little bit what a mentor is. A mentor is not a tutor, so you don't have to be smart. Duh. You can be a mentor without knowing how to teach them anything. A mentor is not a counselor. You're not in there to try to solve their problems. A mentor is a person that shows up every week for this child, and you show up for me at last 2 years, Tuesday, 11:30, I say to Caden, I'll be here in this seat, 11:30 every Tuesday if you're here. And I look at Caden, and I got to know his name. I know what his room looks like. I know where he lives. I know about his grandma. I know about his 3 sisters. I know their names. I know about the dog that he wants to have that his grandmother said no dog. I know about how much he wants it. And so when we come back together here in a few weeks, I'll say, hey, Caden, how's the dog? And when I look at him again, and I show up every week, what happens inside, I'm told from people who know, is over time, one adult who shows up at the same place, not as a teacher to correct them, not as a person to say they're in trouble, not as a person to say you're not smart enough, not as a person that lets you know you're going somewhere else today, but as a person who says, I am here for you. Inside, that kid begins to calm down. inside they begin to say, that dude is for me. Everybody else has another job. He's for me. And over time, consistency begins to rewire a child's expectation that they are seen and known and valuable, and they can be resilient in this world. Another part of our partnership at Welch Elementary is every Wednesday, a group of volunteers from our church goes in at the end of school, 2:30 or 2:15, we show up in the gym and we teach a Bible club. And I know there's a lot of stuff of, we remove Bible from the church, the school. Not true here in Coweta County. We do it every week. We say Jesus a lot. Because it's a Bible club. It's the only free club that is offered to kids at the school. They can all participate if they want to. They come and we show up, volunteers from our church, week after week. And when we show up, again, it says to a kid, here's a person that knows God, who knows me, and who came to my space and is for me. And we'd love to have you be a part of that. You can sign up. You're just interested in the ministry at Welch. You check that on your card. You don't even have to know what that means. You may not even be able to do it once we talk, but we would love to have you check it out. So check that out. Drop it in the box when you leave. Jason will talk to you about that. Another way we're working in our community is Meals on Wheels. And maybe you've heard of Meals on Wheels and you didn't know. Meals on Wheels is a program that's funded by our government, but it counts on volunteers who come together. They pack meals for seniors who would not have food if we didn't provide that food. They're seniors that don't have anybody in their family, anybody around that can help them. Volunteers come in during the week, Monday through Friday. They pack the food, and then there are other volunteers that go out and they deliver them. There's one group of people in our church that have been driving the same route 15 years. In fact, they've done it so long that earlier this year they sent us a little note and said, hey, you got to update your picture and all of that. I didn't know at the time, neither did any of our volunteers. They were actually tricking us. They wanted to get us there to give us an honor for doing it for 15 years. So because they didn't tell us, none of us showed up. Not one of us. Because we just I don't know, they're going to let me drive without their picture. I mean, somebody's got to take that food. So we just kept coming. And then I show up and they go, hey, you're the pastor. We had this award. And I went, thank you. We don't really care about awards, but thank you anyway. And it's in my truck right now. So these people have been so loyal. I drive a route because I wanted to see what it's like. We got about 6 other people that drive routes individually. And what happens on my route is I go to these same 6 homes of these elderly people every week. I like going because they'll say, hey, young man. I'm like, yeah, young man, you're right. And I show up with these old people and I hand them food, and I've helped 3 of them bury their spouses. I've been with them now to pray with them, and I say to this one lady every week who doesn't have anybody in the county, and she used to have a church, and something had really happened with the connection with the church, and I say, how you doing? How was your doctor's appointment? And then earlier this year, she said, how are you doing? You look healthy. I said, well, I have a little heart thing. And she said, I'll pray for you like you've been praying for me. I said, thank you. And what I've come to realize is, for a lot of those people, because they told me it was true, they didn't have another conversation until I showed up next week. Nobody spoke to them between when I spoke to them. And a light came in. And you could be a part of that. We'd love to have you check that on your thing. I'll finish with one more that we're trying to promote a little bit more this year. It's called River Life. And River Life serves the same kind of people. River Life serves individuals and families who are unable to do minor repairs on their homes due to financial hardship, age, and disability. And the way they coined it is we do the gutters down on the outside for people who can't afford it. And this I'm particularly excited about because I have a lot of people that, you're not old and you're not retired and you work and you want to be involved, but it's all during the week and your boss ain't going to let you go. And you'd like to do something. Well, you can do this on Saturday. And my dream for this is Because you also, people have said, I'd like to do something with my kids. I'd like my family to be able to go do something. Well, you can do that with Herbalife. I mean, you can take your elementary kids and you can do this. We have a group of guys here at our church. They're the old guys, or what I call them, but they call themselves the old farts. And they show up every Tuesday, and they cut grass in the summertime for these people. These people, and you could do yard work for people on Saturday that just need yard work. Or you could do building of ramps for people who are handicapped. They do that as well. And I'll just give you this one opportunity, and I'm almost out of time. In fact, I'm going to be over, y'all. Hang on. On the 29th of this month, they do a project every year called Serve Coweta, where they have all the churches that can come together. It's on Saturday the 29th, and I hope that we can have a bunch of people, and then we'll meet here at the church and have several projects, and we'll go out together in Jesus' name. And you and your families can go and do this. And then my hope is that throughout the year on Saturdays, we'll again sponsor some stuff so you can do this. And your families could begin to learn the love of loving an actual neighbor, loving somebody. So let me be honest about this, about the cost of this. And this is the part some of you were like, oh, I know it's going to cost. Loving the one in front of you does cost something. Mostly it will cost you patience. And it'll cost you time. And it'll cost you being willing to put it on your calendar and not take it off. It'll cost you being faithful when you'd be easier to do something else. It does cost, and it's harder. I get it's easier to just hit a button and give something. But the cost of time, for those of us who are followers of Christ, we learn patience, and we learn love, and we learn faithfulness, and we get to love like Jesus loved us, and that's why it counts. Being upset and overwhelmed about the problems of our world and posting on somebody's page about it, it costs you nothing. And it does nothing. There's spiritual cost and there's a spiritual reward. Spiritually, showing up for one person is an act of you trusting God that says, I can't solve everything. I can't carry the weight of this world, but I can pick up this little corner and I will trust that you'll have somebody else pick up something else. That's an act of faith, of believing that our God does actually care about everybody if I would do my part. Paul tells the Galatians, don't become weary in doing good, because in a due season, proper time, you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. If you just don't give up. I'll end by asking you to picture yourself, and I've seen this happen a lot. Picture yourself standing in the hallway at Welch Elementary, and you're standing waiting outside the media center, what we used to call a library, and you're waiting on this kid, and he comes around the corner, and he looks like he had the worst day, and then he sees you, and you say his name, and he starts running. Because you matter, and he matters to you. Or you and your family, you take a Saturday and you show up at somebody's house who a month ago found out their little boy is never going to walk again. And you help them build a ramp for him for his wheelchair. And when you leave, their day is this much brighter and you did your part. Those moments ain't ever showing up on anybody's 24-hour news channel, because those are actually good news. And that other stuff they pump into us to make us afraid of each other is just propaganda, because we know we can love and not be afraid, because perfect love, it casts out all fear. And we can do it in Jesus' name. God's never asked you to fix everything. But he does, in fact, expect you to love the person in front of you. And so as we end, we're going to take a moment for you to consider that. Jason's going to lead you in it.